keep your heads down, keep your mouth shut, and let me get us out of this like I got us out of every other motherfucking thing else.
Way to move on.
Gangsta Greasy, Greasy.
As we proceed to give you what you need, 2010 motherfuckers, bring that money in, motherfuckers. Everything comes to an end.
Let's do it tomorrow.
There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow.
We're gonna talk about the game again, man. Like I said, I never got a chance. One of the things we talked about last week was the comments he had made as far as pertaining to Kanye West doing more for his career than Dr. Dre. And I honestly wanted to talk about that a little bit more because hearing more conversations and actually hearing more depth with it, it's understandable what he was saying. And also what he said as far as him in doing the verses against Eminem and people, whoever's making it sound like that's crazy, I definitely don't feel like they sound crazy. In my opinion, just being a Game fan. But it's also being in this day and age of music and how much I can listen to Eminem and how much I can listen to Game. Who I'm listening to more? In this day and age, I'm listening to the Game. I'm just being honest. But besides that, he also got into depth about who was more hands-on with him as far as when he was on Aftermath or whatnot. And it was, I ain't gonna say it was really surprising, but it was just coming from him and admitting that he said 50 Cent was more hands-on with him than Dr. Dre. And then that would me go back to saying, okay, now I kind of understand where he's coming from as far as Kanye West did more for his career than Dr. Dre. Because honestly, when you go back and look at his career coming from the documentary, it's like, okay, you got to think. Once he started dissing G-Unit 50 Cent now, everybody pretty much was shutting them off from Interscope and them and whatnot. So I kind of see what he means. I do understand where he's coming from because he, without him going into depth about it, Kanye pretty much came in and probably handled certain situations legally maybe for him. I'm not going to say he did that, but maybe. But the fact that the certain things he said as far as bringing him on stage with him as far as the Donda 2, helping him out with the record or whatnot. And remember, Kanye West did produce that first record for him on the documentary, which was Dreams. So it ain't like Kanye just popped up. He been around the game for a minute now. But it's also going into depth and hearing about, you know, the managers he went through. And it's not only that, hearing the Game say, like, I was friends with these individuals that 50 Cent had issues with, as far as these New York rappers like Jadakiss, Fat Joe at the time, you know, when 50 did his thing as far as Fat Joe no making a song with Ja Rule, and you already know what that was. And Game pretty much saying he didn't get no handbook as far as being in G-Unit, saying if 50 got beef with this person, then we all got beef with this person. So he basically saying he didn't get a conversation with 50 Cent, and that's where the situation escalated with the whole Hot 97 shootout or whatnot. And even with that situation, him explaining that, he didn't make it sound like 50 was dodging him in that. He said it sounded like 50 was trying to straight up him and they was shooting back at each other or whatnot without trying to get into details or what trying to incriminate somebody or whatnot. But I know a lot of people was like, this got to be a cap interview. He about to be saying a lot of cap. I actually enjoyed everything he was talking about, give or take. He got into a certain, well, not even really him. Wack 100 ended up coming on the interview because this is a 4-hour interview of Drink Champs. I didn't watch the whole thing in its entirety, but I did catch the main parts of it. And I did watch, I say 2 hours of it. I did. Give or take, I can watch it at work. I get a chance to listen to it or whatnot. And I got home, I was doing a couple things and I listened to it. So I don't know if you got a chance to listen to it, but I just wanted to point out those keynotes because I know from our generation, we was around that time when the whole 300 bars and running and shit came out. I remember when he came out with a whole DVD. This around the time you had to go to the mall, try to get you that DVD. He had the whole DVD disc called Stop Snitching. I don't know if anybody remember that. Like, like he was on a whole campaign, and this is when he was managed by Jimmy Henchman. I don't know if y'all know who Jimmy Henchman is. He on track. Well, I don't know if he on track, but he pretty much in a situation where he in jail right now for, you know what I'm saying, a bunch of gangster shit. He's a Queens, you know what I'm saying? He was out here.
He was in these streets.
Basically.
But no, I didn't see the interview, but I read the tweets where he was talking, like trying to break people down to the industry. And that's what a lot of people fail to realize. It's like everybody want to look at this like, you supposed to be loyal, you supposed to be loyal. And it's like, nobody's loyal to anybody in the industry, period. It's all about money. And as the artist, you the last person getting paid, but the one doing the most work.
And being the type of rapper he was, it was surprising just hearing certain things. Jimmy Iovine was the one. If you don't know who Jimmy Iovine is, if you ever seen Straight Outta Compton, he was the white dude talking to Suge Knight in the movie or whatnot. He's the one that brought Dr. Dre on the Interscope or whatnot. Him and Dr. Dre are probably the closest of the closest out of anybody as far as Dr. Dre's situation going from Death Row. But Jimmy Iovine was the one that pretty much said, put the game in G Unit. Because from what I hear, as far as WAC 100 and them explaining the situation, Dr. Dre wanted to chef the game. You gotta understand what was going on at that time too. 50 was a monster at that time. He came out with a debut album that was on his way to going diamond. Not only that, he started doing what he doing immediately with his group as far as G Unit. He didn't go right to his album. He went to a G Unit group album, then started working on the solo projects for the group. These are platinum albums coming out from Lloyd Banks and Young Buck. And then you got the game coming into the picture, and it's like, it's funny the way he said the situation. He said, what's all them guys that got shot? Did the game get shot too? Well, put them in the group with those guys that got shot too. I was like, hey, and you can hear the way this white guy is saying this stuff, but Jimmy, you can't play Jimmy Iovine like he's some, I ain't even gonna say the word. Jimmy Iovine is a neutral guy. This guy works with the gangster of the gangsters. So he the one sit down with Suge Knight. He worked with anybody you think is that person now, he talked to the real dude as far as Suge Knight. That man, he sit down with him as far as the whole Dr. Dre situation or whatnot. But it's just funny hearing that situation and him saying put him in the group with the other guys that got shot. If I'm not mistaken, 50 was the only guy that got shot in G. Not Lloyd Banks. Okay. But I know the game got shot, but that was just interesting hearing that. And now it's like, I remember me saying, what you mean? How Kanye do more for your career than Dr. Dre? I remember hearing the documentary and this and the third, but it's like, it's one thing to do certain things as far as production-wise for your album, but it's another thing as far as moving your career forward. And it sounds like Dr. Dre was pretty much on the standstill as far as not letting the game move forward with his career because of the situation with G Unit and him and 50 Cent or whatnot. So
a mess.
I just feel like as far as what Game said is 50 being hands-on with him, that's interesting because it's like this guy was wanting to put, it sounded like to me 50 wanted everybody in his group to be in a position. You're talking about G Unit West, the Game, you got that. G Unit South, Buck, you got that. I don't really want to stay in this music shit too long. I'm about to do movies and shit. Lloyd Banks, you take over. You the most pretty much talented one out of the group right now. You got the most leadway as far as being the biggest artist out of besides me as far as 50 Cent once I get out here. So that's why I looked at it as far as the setup, as far as him trying to put everybody in their position to do certain things. But I think Game was one of those artists, and he won't admit it, mate, because I didn't hear him say this in the interview, but wanting to be one of those artists that said, I didn't want to be a group member, nigga. I was going to be the biggest artist just like you. I wanted to be like in the same position as you is in.
He was on his Q-tip shit.
Pretty much. That's what it said.
Yo, that interview was so wild. This nigga was like, I represent my motherfucking self. Like, wait, we not a group no more? Like,
hey, and then you got to say this man on DRINKCHAMPS. He drunk, if I'm not mistaken, he drunk a whole goddamn bottle of something on there. He known for doing shit like this, the Game. And shout out to everybody.
I was about to do the shit that I always do.
Oh, shit, what?
Say something about people legal situation, but I'm gonna shut the fuck up.
Nah,
shut the fuck up, blood. Don't get quiet now. All that shit y'all throwing up out the window? What's up with it?
Speak your mind, dude.
Nah, we gonna move on.
All right, but yeah, I just, like I said, we talked about this last week as far as the Game, and especially the situation with Kanye West doing more for his career. Like I said, I kind of feel where he's coming from now. Do you kind of see that now?
That's what I thought in the first place. I just know the internet like to take sound bites and make shit viral, and then have everybody arguing and
I went
emotional
with it
about
too.
some shit that they didn't even know. And I'm just like, just wait till you see the damn interview. Y'all want to just jump down this man's throat off of one fucking sentence. Like,
It's being a fan of Dre. I think that's where mine came from. I was like, man, wait a minute, Dr. Dre, this nigga produced all, like, he did this in the third, and it's like, wait a minute, you got to think about Game's perspective. You really got to think about it. Once I went back, because me, like I said, that's our generation. We coming back from listening to those disses or whatnot, knowing he was coming at G Unit or whatnot, and it's like, oh shit, you got to think about it. Dr. Dre isolated this nigga. Like he was pretty much shunned out from Interscope, and they talked about this too. They pretty much had to go, you know what I'm saying? Dr. Dre wasn't producing shit for him, so what's the record that came after the documentary? The One Blood. That's the next record, and that shit started to go off. I was one of those fans of Young Blood too. We got in here. Tony Robinson, what's good, bro? Appreciate you coming through. I mean, I say Lloyd Banks, bro. I was going with Banks. He was definitely one of the next ones up as far as Game, as far as out of G-Unit, but I'm going with Banks. I was on them Money in the Bank mixtapes and all that. You got to understand who Banks was at that time. Mm-hmm. Banks was the punchline king at that time. You had all these people out going out of New York, even Cassidy. You remember Cassidy at that time? Like, I'm just saying, he was the punchline king to me. What's up with Nadia? You was around? I know you hip-hop fan. What's up? What's up?
Okay.
Hey, Tony Robinson, you might have done started something. I might need to think about that.
I agree with Tony.
Out of the blue.
I agree with Tony. I'm not mad at Lloyd Banks. Like, I feel like he is a strong lyricist. It's just like he would say some silly shit that you just be like, huh?
Ooh, Tony. Oh, I gotta think about that. I might agree with
I agree.
It's the fact of Lone Jeopardy too. Fabulous definitely was more of an artist that put more music out than Banks too, especially at that time where Banks wasn't really trying to do shit after the whole situation with G-Unit, which I wasn't really hearing him putting out music like that.
True, but yeah.
You see, now you got me thinking about 300 bars and running.
But I say Game is a dope lyricist, man. I mean, as far as like West Coast people, like I really enjoyed the documentary. I can't say like I just like go searching for his shit now, but I listen to the documentary. Not saying that I don't like anything that he's made now. It's I just, you know, I wasn't like a fan, so like I just like the album.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That documentary is this, like I said, that impact, but it's not only just the production, it's the Game being a lyricist. Mm-hmm. But another thing they talked about too was it wasn't just the fact that him pushing forward as far as having managers and him being isolated from Dr. Dre and them. If it wasn't for his talent and him continue to keep going, minus being shunned out from one of the biggest groups at that time, G-Unit, and one of the biggest artists at that time, 50 Cent, you got to think about all of that. And Game kept pushing forward. He dissing one of the biggest artists and groups at that time. And he's still going and going and going, being basically a rebel at that time.
Okay. I was about to start mixing people up. But no. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I
remember the time period, because I remember sitting there, I was, like I said, I'm a fan of 50. And I remember sitting there being kind of upset because it's like, this nigga got bars. Damn, he killing. Like, do something. And then he came out with the DVD, and this is when they had Olivia and them on there, and they was going hard on them. You talking about Game walking through Queens. This is 50 Cent hometown, whatnot. And you got to remember this Jimmy Henchman. He, once again, this is somebody in the street. So he got connections. He was able to put Game in this position. He got G-Unite signs in Queens, New York City.
I remember that shit.
Like I said, we ain't no internet around like heavy like that. So I'm watching this on the DVD. Yeah, but you gotta understand, this is a loyalty thing at the time.
But he really didn't have like any like big collabs. Like to like
he did afterwards though. What was that last album when he had Benz? What was that song Lloyd Banks came out with? Beamers, Benz, and Bentleys. BMWs, Benz, and Bentleys. It was like that album, and he had like a lot of people, especially different New York artists on there.
I remember that song. But now you gonna have me looking for it. But
it's important though.
It's about consistency, and like you said,
and I feel like even Nori talked about this. He said, with all of that being said, how did y'all basically fuck up the bag? You gotta understand, if y'all would have stayed together, the tours, the albums, just the continuation of just G Unit at that time would have been crazy.
That I don't feel comfortable unless I know I went above and beyond with my preparation. The things that possibly could happen, if I ain't take real steps to prevent those things, I'm not comfortable. I can't walk around, you know, charismatic and happy. Nah, I gotta make sure, you know, we setting up some type of wealth, because